So I want to touch base again on this specific topic. The topic that we have been studying is the simple forms versus the um, continuous forms. So I mentioned this yesterday. It was simple and continuous verbs. It's a comparison just to make sure that we are understanding and of course that we are able to identify those pieces. So I just want to touch base on two things that I think every every English student must be aware of. Okay. So first is the form or structure, and the second is the use or the purpose. Okay. So this is what's going to make a great student, that we learned the form and the structure, but that we also are aware of the use or the purpose for every topic that we learn, especially with grammar. So what I was trying to explain yesterday is the use and purpose of the simple forms, and also refresh bit of the structure of it. Okay. And the same with the continuous forms. What is the purpose or the reason behind the continuous forms, the use of it, and the form or the structure. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about this just for a moment. Let's talk about the simple forms, and I want some of you to help me after this little review. So let's see if it's more convenient for me to just send a whiteboard. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, so I'm going to use a whiteboard just for a second for this exercise. And I'm going to start with the simple forms. Okay. Simple forms. Let's do a little recap of what are the tenses that are inside of the simple forms groups. Okay. The simple form, for example, simple present. We have simple past, future or simple future. We have present perfect, past perfect, future perfect. These are the tenses that are in the group of the simple forms, okay? So the simple forms are basically these tenses. And the continuous forms are the tenses as follows. The present continuous, the past continuous, future continuous, present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and future perfect continuous. If we add all of these up, we have 12 tenses. English, at least the general consensus is that we have 12 tenses for uh, the basic, I will say the basic grammar tenses are 12, okay? So here are all 12 of them, divided in simple forms here and continuous forms. Now, what is the use of them? Okay, cada uno de estos tiene un uso, ¿verdad? So each of them has a use and a purpose. So I said we have to focus, as good students, we have to focus on two things, the structure, but also the use. Okay, so by now we should be able to know most of these. I know that some of these we have not studied. For example, future continuous, future perfect continuous. Uh, we have probably not digged that much on these topics, but it's because they are not that common, and we probably are not going to use them that much. But the rules are pretty much similar to any other perfect tense or continuous tense. So the structure and the use. We need to remember what is the structure of the simple present and what is the use. So the purpose of this lesson is not to teach you again simple present. Okay, this is something that we probably won't have time to do, but it's good to refresh. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna use or write some sentences. Um, And then you will go ahead and tell me if this is a simple form, if this is a continuous form, and what is the tense that is written on. Okay, so that's the exercise. I'm gonna write some sentences. I'm gonna call some names, and you are going to tell me if this is a sentence in a simple form, if it's in a continuous form, and what is the tense of the sentence. Okay, so I'm going to start with something really easy as an example. So, for example, I play with my friends all day long. So, this is one sentence. The idea is to decide, is this a simple form? Is this a continuous form sentence? And as a bonus, what is the tense of this sentence? Okay. So let's just start this is an example. So this is just a test, a quick test before we do our exercise. Collectively, what is the form of this sentence? Is this a simple form or a continuous form? This is a general question. Anybody can answer. So guys, is this a simple form or a continuous form?
Simple form.
It's a simple form. Okay, perfect. I think we all agree on that, right? It's a simple form. Okay, let's go one step ahead. What is the tense of this sentence? You have all 12 tenses here. What is the tense of this sentence? Anybody? Okay, thank you very much. I got a direct message. Simple present. It is simple present. Yes. So this is a general question anybody can answer. So we have decided that this sentence here, this here, is a sentence that is in simple form. And of course, if I say that is a simple form, the tense must be here, right? And the tense is the simple present. Yes, you are correct. If this is what you thought it was, you are correct. So that's the exercise. I'm going to be writing some sentences here, and you are going to decide if it's simple or continuous form. And if you can, you're going to help me identify those sentences. Okay. So let me start with sentence number one. Okay, I'm going to start with four, and I'm going to call some names, and we're going to decide if these are simple forms or continuous forms, okay? So I'm going to start with Oscar. Oscar, number one, sentence number one. Can you read that sentence?
I was playing soccer when you called it.
Hmm? And would you say, is this a simple form or is this a continuous form?
Oh, I think it's continuum form.
It's a continuous form, okay? You are correct. It is a continuous form. Now, let me ask you a question. How do you know it's a continuous form?
Because it's I was is in past
Hmm. That's one reason, huh?
in
What is the main characteristic of a continuous tense?
mm, the playing.
The ing, yes. The ing is the main characteristic. So verb V and ing, that means continuous form.
Mhm,
Okay? So you're
mhm.
right. This is a continuous form. Now, what do you think is the correct tense? Present continuous, past continuous, future continuous, present perfect continuous, present past perfect continuous, or future perfect? What is the tense?
I think future continues.
Let's analyze the sentence. I was playing soccer when you called. Is that future?
No, no, no. It's past continuous.
Past continuous. Exactly. Okay. So yeah, that's the exercise. We look at the characteristic of the sentence. We decide if it's a continuous form or a simple form, and then we answer what tense it is. So you're correct. It's a continuous form sentence. And on top of that, we can identify by the characteristics that it is past continuous. So perfect. We're on the same page, right? Let's go. Thank you, Oscar. Let's go with Luisa. Luisa, sentence number two. Can you read that, please? Sorry, Lisa, I don't know if you're reading or speaking, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I will work on that as soon as I can.
Okay, is that a simple form or a continuous form?
It's a simple form,
And what will be the tense?
simple future or future,
It is,
only future.
that's correct. Simple future or future. You're right. Is the same. So we have identified that. How do I know that? How do you know that, Luisa? How do you know that it was a simple form?
Because you write will,
Mm-hmm.
the verb is in base form, I think.
That's correct. Yes. So
Will
there's
plus
no
verb.
ing.
Yes.
Exactly. Basically, it's because of the same reason, right? So there is no ing, there is no verb be, and of course, the simple future is with will, right? It's will or going to. So that's a simple future. So good job. We have that. We have identified that part. Let's go with a sentence number three. In this case, for sentence number three, I'm going to ask Liz. Liz, can you read sentence number three and tell me if it's a simple form or a continuous form?
Okay. I have never been there. This is simple form. Um, this is present perfect.
That's correct. So it's a simple form because no ing or anything, and it is a structure that matches the present perfect tense, right? It has the auxiliary verb have, and it has the verb be,
Be,
but in past participle, right? Being. Perfect. So we are good. Let's go with Padding. Padding, can you help me with number four?
I was a teacher at the school.
What is that? Is that a simple form or a continuous form?
That's continuous form.
Ujú. Continuous, dijimos que tiene que ser ing plus the verb be. Is there an ing verb here?
No, it's
No. It's a simple past. It's a simple form and it is the simple past. Correct. Exactly. So that's the analysis that I want you to make. Thank you very much, Karen. You're right. So it is not continuous because we don't see any ing or any verb be in there, right? It has to have both. So it has to have the um, ing, but also the verb be, right? If we only have the verb be, it doesn't matter. It's not a continuous form. If only has the ing but doesn't have the verb be, again, it is possible that it's not an continuous form either. It has to have both. If it has both, then we're good. So we have that part. Let's do a couple more. Okay, so I have a couple of people who have not participated, so I want to give you the opportunity. I'm going to go with Miguel. Miguel, sentence number 1. Can you go ahead and read it and decide if it's a simple form or a continuous form? If possible, can you read sentence number 1?
Yeah, you will you will be arriving soon.
Mhm. Sure. Is that simple or continuous?
Future continue.
Continuous, okay? And what tense is it? It is.
Excuse me, teacher?
What is a tense? Is it present perfect? Sorry, present, past, future,
Future continue.
future continuous. Okay, perfect. So yes, it is future continuous. It is a continuous tense. Well done. Let's go with Carolyn. Carolyn, can you help me with number 2? I think we're having the same problem than yesterday.
I'm sorry, same thing happened.
No problem.
I studied simple because it doesn't have the verb.
Sorry, can you repeat that again? I kind of lost you. So can you read the sentence first and then tell me if it's a simple or continuous form?
I studied all night. I think
No,
it's a.
sorry. I think we're confused. I asked you for number 2.
Oh, sorry. I heard the third one. I have been warning you all morning. It's a continuous form. In this case, verb has ing.
Mm-hmm. And what is the exact tense? So it's in the continuous area, but what's the tense?
It's um hmm, I'm doubting.
What's the one that you think it is?
Um,
Let's look at the
probably
characteristics. So it's a continuous tense, but what is the auxiliary verb?
have.
The auxiliary verb is have. That's right. So there is just one tense that the auxiliary verb is have.
Yeah. Present perfect continuous.
Exactly. That's right. So present perfect continuous or present perfect is the only one that has the word have as an auxiliary. And if it's a continuous form using that verb, then yeah, you are on the right track when you say present perfect continuous. Now, Daniel, can you help me with number 3? This one is easy.
I studied all night. It's a simple form and it's simple past.
It's a simple past sentence. Perfect. Yes. And I think I'm missing Feliceida. Feliceida. I think she's having some problems with the connection. Okay. So let's do it together. Number 4 is one example of having the verb be, but not necessarily being a continuous form, right? So I mentioned that in order for it to be a continuous form, it has to have both, right? It has to have both. Uh, I'm going to give you two examples on how this might be confusing. For example, okay. So I have sentence 4 and sentence 5. Sentence 4. Is this a continuous form? It is not. This is a simple present with the verb be form. It's a simple present. He is not my friend. Why it is not a continuous form? Because it doesn't have the ing verb plus the verb be. It only has the verb be, but no ing verb or ing form. What about number 5? Bowling is not my thing. In this case, we have a word that has ing, right? But pay attention here. Is bowling, in this case, in this specific case, is bowling the verb or is it the subject? Because bowling is the name of a sport, remember? So in this case, it might be confusing. Some may say, oh, well, in this case, we have a word that has ing and the word with a verb be, then it probably is a continuous form. But this is not a continuous form sentence. This is a simple present sentence. The bowling word is the subject, which is the name of the sport. The name of the sport has ing. This is not the verb of the sentence, right? It's not the same as number 1. You will be arriving soon. Here, the word arriving is the verb, is the action of the sentence, okay? So you have to, of course, pay attention, check the entire context, and not just pay attention to the structure, okay? So the structure and the use, okay? The structure and the use. If you can connect both, then you're going to have a very good result at the end of any test because you are connecting both. Now, if we are only focusing on structure, we are too mechanic. Podremos ser muy robóticos y solo ir completando y llenando sin analizar. So you got to be careful with that. So I know that number 4 and number 5 could be confusing, but hopefully I was able to explain myself in a way in which you understand the reason behind it, okay? So we're going to do some exercises on Nearpod they're going to be pretty similar to what I did, but of course, I gave you all the sentences. You were only identifying cases. In the case of the exercising Nearpod, you will be, of course, completing some sentences on your own. Remember what we studied yesterday? We studied something called stated verbs and dynamic verbs. Remember that there are certain verbs that do not exist in continuous form. Okay, so there are certain verbs that are just not part of the continuous form because of the way English is structured. Okay, some of those verbs are verbs like know, like, love, and understand. So these are verbs that you normally won't see in continuous forms, okay? If you see them in continuous forms, is either one exception, which is very rare, or it is a very bad translation. Sometimes we translate things from Spanish into English, and since Spanish is very open with this kind of things, we sometimes use continuous tenses or simple tenses and we don't care. We bring that back to English, and English is a little bit more restricted in that part. So you communicate very different things, and there are certain things that do not exist in English, okay? So you never say, are you knowing him? No, do you know him, right? You never say, I am liking it. You say, I like it, or I don't like it. Or you can say, I'm starting to like it. Si quieres decir como me está empezando a gustar, I'm starting to like it, but you don't say I'm liking it, okay? So be careful with that. Liking is not a verb that we use. The same with loving, right? I'm loving you. No, it's I love you, right? Or I'm starting to love you if what you're trying to say is that the love of feeling is starting. So just for you to have that awareness, okay? That just because you're translating that way in Spanish doesn't mean that it's going to work in English or that even exists in English. So let's try to avoid that situation. So I have a series of exercises. As I mentioned before, these exercises are going to be a little bit more complex because you will have to decide if it's the simple form of the or the continuous form of the tense. And of course, sentences can be either in present or present perfect or past. So you have to read the context to know, okay? Basically, it's it's uh it's the context what's going to give you the best answer. So complete the conversations. We have conversations, entire conversations, and use the simple or continuous form of the verb. The options are going to be present, present perfect, or past. So I want to give you a little hint, una pista, a little hint. There are certain expressions that are probably going to be or make it clear for you. When you say things like lately, currently, right now, at this moment, these are expressions, time expressions, that talk about things that are happening now, either temporarily or not, but they are happening in the moment. They are in progress. So in most of the cases, when you see things like currently, lately, etc., it's what's happening now. Remember that the use of the continuous tenses is exactly that. It's telling you something that is in progress or something that is temporary. It's just happening for now. It might not be your permanent situation, but it's what's happening at the moment. So that's why we call it continuous or progressive, because it's temporary and it is in or it is developing at that moment. Okay. So if you're doubting like one sentence or the other, you probably, by taking a look at the context, in paying attention to the time expressions, for example, for the past few months, or for example here, for 3 years, we're talking about something that happened in the past. So that is probably something that is going to help you complete it. So we're going to go one by one. I'm going to give you time to work on number one first. When you finish that, we're going to try to review it and see if there are any questions. And then we're going to go with number two and work with number two. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. No, I'm going to actually start the activity. So 2 minutes and 30 seconds to finish number one. Los verbos están en paréntesis, okay? So you don't have to make that up. The verbs are there. You just have to decide if it's present, perfect. If it's present, simple present, or if it's past, and if it's a continuous form or if it's just a simple form. Okay, 20 seconds. If you're finished, go ahead and send whatever you have. If not, you have just a few seconds more to try to decide. We're going to review them together. I'm going to post your answers on file, and we're going to try to decide if that's the best choice. Remember, sometimes, in very rare cases, sometimes more than one answer is possible. Okay, time's over. Okay, let's take a look at some of the sentences, okay? What was you doing for fun lately? Okay, well, I taken karate classes for the past few months. It's a lot of fun, and I get in shape, and I get pretty good shape. I get in pretty good shape. Okay, I'm just reading them. I'm not going to correct them right now, but I'm going to just show you show you the options and show you how many options you're providing. Let's see here. What have you been doing for fun lately? Well, I have been taking karate classes for the past few months. It's a lot of fun, and I'm getting in pretty good shape. Okay. I have another one. What did you do for fun lately? Well, I was taking karate classes for the past few months. It's a lot of fun, and I got in pretty good shape. What did you do for fun lately? Well, I take karate classes for the past few months. It's a lot of fun, and I get in pretty good shape. Uh-huh. I'll take. What did you do for fun lately? What have you been doing for fun lately? Okay, let's go back to the origin. Vamos al origen. Let's try to analyze this and, of course, pay attention to words like this, okay? Lately. Cuando hablamos de lately, currently, and all of these sentences, estamos hablando normalmente de tiempos continuos, ¿ok? Normalmente, tiempos continuos. Ahora hay que saber cuál es el tiempo continuo correcto. Ahí es donde les digo que es bueno saber structure y también use, ¿ok? ¿Para qué sirve cada uno de los tiempos verbales? Structure. Okay, structure and use. Se nota que varios de ustedes saben la estructura porque la tuvieron bien, ¿verdad? Entonces, por ejemplo, esta primera, la estructura está bien. What was you doing? Bueno, el verbo vino está también, pero, o sea, la idea del past está bien. What were you doing for fun lately? Sería este. Por ejemplo, what did you do for fun lately? La estructura de este también está bien. La estructura de este también está bien. Y así sucesivamente las estructuras se ven que están bien. Ahora, probablemente lo que no nos ha quedado claro es el uso. Like, how do I use it? Or what is the purpose of it? Or what is the use of the sentence? Or the tense. Entonces, cuando tenemos la palabra lately, primero entendamos eso. Let's understand that first. The word lately means recientemente, recently, ¿ok? Recientemente. Ok, es decir, algo que ha sucedido en el pasado hasta ahora, ¿verdad? Algo que has estado haciendo en el pasado, pero que todavía puedes estar haciendo. Es como que te diga yo, ¿y qué actividades has estado haciendo recientemente? Ah, pues yo he estado saliendo a caminar, salgo a pasear a mi perro y he estado yendo al gym. Entonces, son cosas que empezaste en el pasado, pero que todavía estás haciendo hoy, ¿verdad? Eso es lo que significa la palabra late. So, things that you started doing in the past, but you are doing now. Entonces, solo para que ustedes lo tengan ahí en consideración. Ahora, la palabra lately, ya sabemos que es past continuous. La segunda cosa que sabemos es que es eh, algo que tiene que ver con el pasado y todavía conectado hacia el presente. Eso es algo que hace el present perfect. El present perfect es ese link, ¿verdad? De algo que sucedió en el pasado, pero que todavía está como que relevante a hoy, ¿verdad? El pasado simple, porque veo que algunos hicieron el simple past o el past continuous, ¿verdad? El simple past o el past continuous. Y en realidad ahí lo que estamos pasando o lo que estamos haciendo es que estamos diciendo que la actividad acabó por completo. Ese es el detalle del pasado, ese es el uso del pasado. Por eso es que les digo estructura, pero el uso también. El uso del pasado es, empezó en el pasado, se quedó en el pasado, ¿verdad? Eso es parte del simple past. Entonces la palabra lately ya no tiene tanto sentido, ¿verdad? Porque si no la oración diría, ¿qué hiciste ayer? Porque el día ya acabó, ¿verdad? Empezó y acabó, ¿verdad? ¿A dónde fuiste la semana pasada? Esas son oraciones que son simple past sentences. Y las past continuous también van en esa línea. Son cosas que están en desarrollo en el pasado, pero que ya acabaron. Entonces, por eso es que la palabra lately yo les hacía la marca, ¿verdad? Y les decía, lately es una de las claves acá. El present perfect es el uso, ¿verdad? Que realmente le da sentido a esta oración. Entonces, present perfect, y ya habíamos dicho que era continuo, ¿verdad? Continuous. El present perfect continuous va a tener algunas características. Obviamente va a tener el ing, va a tener el verb be, pero en pasado participio, porque ya sabemos que en el presente perfecto, ¿verdad? Es el pasado participio, el have, lo que necesitamos. What have you been doing for fun lately? ¿Qué has estado haciendo para divertirte o qué has estado haciendo de divertido últimamente? So that's what we need. What have you been doing for fun lately? So now you have the question and you know the tense. Now that you know the tense, you probably are going to have then better ideas on how to continue with the rest of the conversation. Okay. So the first analysis is going to probably be the most important because from the question, you will be able to make some more you will be able to make some more connections to answer that properly. So if the question is in present perfect continuous, then the immediate answer is probably going to be present perfect continuous. I have been taking karate classes for the past few months. ¿Qué quiere decir esto? I have been taking karate classes. Es que empezaste a tomar clases de karate. Esa actividad estaba en desarrollo y todavía la sigues tomando, ¿verdad? No es, por ejemplo, yo tomé clases en el pasado, sino yo he estado tomando clases por los últimos meses. Like, if I ask you, what have you been doing at night? Well, I have been taking some English classes for the past few months, right? It's a lot of fun, and I've been getting in pretty good shape. Remember that good shape is ponerse en forma, right? Ponerse en forma. It's a lot of fun and I've been getting in pretty good shape. Es muy divertido y me he estado poniendo en forma. Es decir, no me puse en forma ya completamente, ¿verdad? Sino es algo que ha estado sucediendo, something that has been happening just little by little, progressively, and this is still relevant for today. No es que ya me puse en forma. Tampoco estoy diciendo me voy a poner en forma algún día, sino es I've been getting in shape, so it's a progressive kind of thing. Um, so let's go ahead and do the second exercise, okay? Esta es la respuesta correcta. Esto era un continuous, un present perfect continuous. So that's how you connected all things. Y todo va del contexto, ¿ok? El contexto de que me digan últimamente es, ok, ¿qué has estado haciendo últimamente? No es pasado, no es presente, no es pasado continuo, era presente perfecto continuo. Algunos de ustedes sí lograron identificar algunos aspectos, pero todavía nos hace falta. Let's go ahead and do number two. Number two is a completely different conversation. So it is this one, the one that we are going to talk about. Who is the most interesting person you know? Well, my best friend is interesting. She in Europe for 3 years when she, okay? So try to identify, are these sentences in simple past, in simple present? What are these? Aquí parece una mezcla. Parece que esta persona está hablando de algo en simple present, pero también nos está dando algunos facts o hechos de algo que ha sucedido en el pasado. So let's go ahead and work on number two. You have, again, same time, 2 minutes and 30 seconds to try to decide what is the best tense, okay? So you can use present, past, or present perfect and decide if it's present perfect continuous, present continuous, or past continuous as well. So let's take a few seconds to do that. You have 50 seconds. Okay, time's over. Let me share some of the ideas, and then we're going to decide which is the best. So, who's the most interesting person you know? Well, I've been thinking my best friend is interesting. She was living in Europe for 3 years, and when she grow up, I guess. Let's see another one. I think my best friend is interesting. She lived in Europe for 3 years when she grew up. Hmm. I think my best friend is interesting. She was living in Europe for 3 years when she grew up. I think my best friend is interesting. She lived in Europe for 3 years when she grew up. Ese está vacío. I think my best friend is interesting. She was live in Europe for 3 years. Okay, uno más. I think my best friend is interesting. She lived in Europe for 3 years when she was growing up. Okay, very good. So aquí tenemos una mezcla de muchas cosas. Okay, so let's go ahead and analyze the sentence first to try to decide what's the best choice for it. Okay, so let's analyze the question, because from the question we can have some clues. Who's the most interesting person you know? Who is the most interesting person you know? Not who was, or who is going to be, or who has been the most interesting person you know. The question is in simple present, plain and simple. Who is the most interesting person you know? Who is the most interesting person you know? So now I know that this is simple present. Tal vez esto no me va a dar el detalle para todas las respuestas, pero al menos para la respuesta inicial sí me da una idea clara. Muchas veces, if I have a question and that question comes in a sentence, in a tense, sorry, well, the immediate answer is going to be in that same tense. I can add the more things and maybe I can change things a little bit, but in general, I will have the same tense. I will have the tense of the question, and the same tense is going to be the same tense for the immediate answer. So if I discovered that this is simple present, then my very first answer is going to be in simple present. So in this case, this is correct. Both are simple present. Who is the most interesting person you know? I think my best friend is interesting. Ahora, recuerden que I'm thinking y todas esas hay que evaluarlas con cuidado, right? Because the word think, know, love, etc. Those are verbs that are called stative verbs, right? So we have to be careful. Some of those we can use. In this case, think is a verb that we can use both ways. We can use with ing or without ing. But in this case, it doesn't make sense. No tiene sentido que yo conteste una oración en un tiempo continuo cuando la oración de la pregunta inmediatamente anterior era una pregunta en simple present. So it doesn't make sense if I change the tense. So in this case, it's the same tense. Simple present, simple present. Now, there are some other details that this person is giving about the life of this friend who is interesting. So first of all, we're knowing a bit more of where she was when she was child, and it says for 3 years. Esta actividad ya acabó. No está haciendo una referencia de algo que sigue pasando, ¿verdad? No, está hablando de una actividad que empezó y que acabó. Ella vivió en Europa por 3 años. She lived in Europe for 3 years. This is the correct one. No puedo poner she was living in Europe for 3 years, porque cuando digo eso es porque yo voy a contar algo más, ¿verdad? Ella estaba viviendo en Europa por 3 años cuando tal cosa pasó, ¿verdad? Por ejemplo. Pero aquí no, solo me dicen she was living in Europe for 3 years when she grew up. Esa no tiene sentido esa oración, ¿verdad? Eso como que se queda desde she was living esperando a que me cuenten más. Ahí es donde entra el use, ¿verdad? El use. En la anterior yo les decía el use of the present perfect is that you guys can connect the past to the present, right? You connect the past to the present. And it is something that started in the past, but it's still relevant for today. Now, in this case, we're talking about the past. The past and the past continuous. Okay? Now, what is the use of it? Porque ya vi que las estructuras sí se las saben. So the structures are clear. I'm glad that that's happening. But the past is for things that are completed, right? Completed. So that means that it is over. It is finished. It is completed. And the past continuous sometimes is to provide context and more info. Cuando estamos contando algo en past continuous, normalmente es porque viene amarrado de alguna otra situación que es la situación definitiva. Por ejemplo, I was walking on the street when I slipped and fell. Estaba caminando en la calle cuando me resbalé y caí. Ese es un ejemplo de past continuous. Past continuous me ayuda a contar un poquito más de contexto, right? It gives me context, it gives me more info, and it talks about what's happening around the important activity. Al final lo que te quiero contar es que me caí, pero te doy contexto, ¿verdad? I'm giving you context and I'm letting you know this and this and this happened. A esto nosotros le llamamos entonces el uso, right? The use or the purpose. Acá, por eso es que yo veo que el uso o el purpose del past continuous no se cumple, porque no me está dando mucha más información de algo que se vio interrumpido, ¿verdad? Sino simplemente estaba contándome que esta persona vivió 3 años. So that means that it's a completed action. It's past simple. She lived in Europe for 3 years. Y when she grew up. La palabra grow up es crecer. Si yo uso la palabra grew up, noten que la oración suena un poco rara. Por ejemplo, ella vivió en Europa por 3 años cuando ella creció. Cuando ella creció, o sea, suena como que de repente era chiquita y creció, ¿verdad? So it doesn't give me, porque eso es el pasado, ¿verdad? El pasado es un tiempo de acciones completadas. No cuenta mucha historia, no cuenta mucho desarrollo, simplemente cuenta cosas que pasaron, ¿verdad? So in this case, it makes it more pleasing or more logical to think that past continuous is giving you more context. Cuando ella estaba creciendo, o cuando durante su niñez, durante su desarrollo, ella vivió en Europa por 3 años. Esa es la idea principal, ¿verdad? O sea, mientras ella crecía, vivió o mientras ella era niña, ella vivió 3 años en Europa. So, even though I think it works here, the word grew up, algunos de ustedes usaron el simple past aquí y lo usaron aquí también. I think it works in both ways, but I think it's even better when we connect the use, right? So it's to provide some context or to provide some more info. And to completed actions, we use the simple past. Pues aquí se van a dar cuenta que hay muchas cosas que tienen que ver con un poquito más de criterio. Hay reglas gramaticales, sí, por supuesto, pero las reglas gramaticales solo las vamos a poder aplicar bien, correctamente, cuando entendemos cuál es el criterio correcto que estamos usando. Okay, so when is the right criteria? So just for you to have that information. So it's good to have structure, but this is a bit of the use of the sentences, okay? So this is the one that I consider is the best choice, the one that you see here. Simple present for the first part, and simple past and past continuous for the second one. One to talk about the completed action, and another one to talk about more about the context of the extra info that we need to understand the story. Let's go ahead and do another exercise, and hopefully it's every time that we do it is clearer and clearer. So exercise number 3, same thing. Notice here the word ever. Ever. Esta palabra ever ya la habíamos visto cuando estábamos en Intermediate 1, si no estoy mal, y estábamos viendo Present Perfect. Entonces ya de una vez les anticipo que esto parece ser present perfect, right? Porque es como alguna vez has, have you ever, that's a present perfect kind of sentence. Y ustedes se van a ir dando cuenta que hay ciertas oraciones, como cuando usamos, por ejemplo, right now. Eso es present continuous, ¿verdad? Así como, what are you doing right now? Or what kind of music are you listening to right now? So I see that word and I immediately know that it's talking about present continuous. Miro palabras como lately y yo sé que ya está hablando de un tiempo continuo, pero en realidad es el present perfect continuous. Y miro palabras como ever y ya sé que está hablando del present perfect. So those are the kind of clues or words that you have to learn to identify that are really part of the tenses. So we're going to work on number 3 and number 4. Hopefully we have enough time to do both. And we have a little conversation exercise at the very end. So I hope that we can have time to do this. So I might ask you to finish number 3 depending on the time. And then we're going to jump into the conversation part. But I want to give you the opportunity to at least try it one more time. So 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I know that time is short sometimes, but I'm going to ask you to please give it a try within the time given. Twenty seconds. Perfect. So let's go ahead and complete this. When you ever met anyone famous? Así, ¿verdad? Es have you ever? Have you ever? Y si es el present perfect, que ya les había dado el chivo, ¿verdad? Present perfect. ¿Se acuerdan que el present perfect tiene ciertas características? El present perfect usa el have como auxiliar. Por eso es que lo estoy usando al principio de la oración, ¿verdad? Y también usa el past participle del verbo. El past participle del verbo es aquel que nosotros tenemos en la tercera columna del archivo de verbos, ¿verdad? El past participle. En caso de la palabra meet, el past participle es met. So it's have you ever met? Have you ever met anyone famous? So, have you ever met anyone famous? Very good. Have you ever meet anyone famous? I will make that correction. Solo les pediría hacer ese cambio ahí, ¿verdad? No es have you ever meet anyone famous, it's have you ever met, because we're using the past participle of the verb. That's something of the that's something that comes with the present perfect. Okay. No me lo estoy inventando yo, esas son las reglas gramaticales del present perfect. Pues ahí sí tiene que ver con la estructura. Yo me tengo que saber la estructura, no solo el uso, ¿verdad? Sino la estructura también. So let's go with another one. Have you ever met anyone famous? Yes, very good. Have you ever meet anyone famous? Aquí otra vez, ¿verdad? Es have you ever. Ese pequeño detalle de identificar cuál es el tiempo verbal. Eso lo voy a saber conforme me voy aprendiendo los tiempos verbales, ¿verdad? Ya les estoy dando algunos pequeños chivos acá que si ustedes consideran que no lo sabían, los anoten, ¿verdad? Present perfect, ¿cuáles son las claves, ¿verdad? Ya les decía, present continuous, ¿cuáles son las claves? Los tiempos continuos. Las claves son que tengan el verb be y que tengan el ing, ¿verdad? En el caso del present perfect, tiene que tener el auxiliar have o has, por supuesto, y el pasado participio. Si tiene esas dos cosas, entonces yo inmediatamente puedo identificarlo o fabricarlo. En este caso, hacer la pregunta yo. Have you ever met anyone famous? Here I have another one. Have you ever met anyone famous? Y en el chat también dice, have you ever met anyone famous? Yes, you're right. Okay, so ya va la primera pregunta. Have you ever met anyone famous? No. But last year, la respuesta es no, pero de una vez nos da un contexto adicional. No necesariamente, como esta información ya es adicional, no necesariamente va a tener que ser todo en present perfect, ¿verdad? Ahí sí vamos a tener que ver el contexto. Y el contexto ya inicia en pasado. Entonces, el año pasado, last year. Last year, I saw a TV star on the street. Esto ya pasó, ¿verdad? Porque no es como que siga pasando hasta el día de hoy, sino vi a una estrella de televisión en la calle. I saw a TV star on the street. We were both waiting in line for ice cream. Aquí nos da un poco del contexto. Otra vez lo que venía en la anterior, ¿verdad? El simple past me ayuda a hablar de acciones que son completadas. Normalmente son repentinas también, ¿verdad? Y por otro lado, el past continuous me ayuda a darme contexto, un poco de historia. ¿Qué estaba pasando? I saw a TV star on the street. We were both waiting in line. Ambos estábamos esperando en línea o en la fila para el helado. Ajá. We both wait in line for ice cream. Aquí está bien. Este de aquí le falta, ¿verdad? We were both waiting in line. We were es past continuous. We were both waiting. La palabra were es el verb be y waiting sería el ing de ese verbo. Entonces es un tiempo continuo y tiene, por supuesto, un poquito de historia. Entonces, esa es una de las cosas que les mencionaba que hay que tomar en cuenta. So, the correct answer or the one that I recommend as the example is this one. Have you ever met anyone famous? No, but last year I saw a TV star on the street. We were both waiting in line for ice cream. Ya expliqué por qué estábamos hablando de un present perfect. La palabra ever casi siempre va a ir dentro de preguntas que son de present perfect. En este caso, hablamos de una acción que está completada, ¿verdad? Repentina. Vi a una persona famosa, a una estrella de cine. I saw a TV star on the street. And what was happening? What was the context? We were both waiting in line for ice cream. So keep on the good work. I think there are many things that we are doing right, and I see that some of you have very clear structure on some things, but we have to be more careful considering other options. So I gave you some practice. We still have another one. I don't think we're gonna have time to do it today because I want to jump into the conversation part. But we might go back to this for homework. So let's go ahead and finish the last minutes of the class by having short conversations. And these are conversations based on questions using continuous tenses or simple tenses. So we have a mix here. We have a mix of continuous tenses and simple tenses. And we have a mix of tenses. So some of these questions are going to be past perfect continuous. Sorry, present perfect continuous are going to be just simple present questions or simple present, present continuous questions. It could be a simple past question or it could be a past continuous question. So it depends on on the context. Now, um, the key here is to identify what is the tense. Si identificas cuál es el tiempo verbal, muy probablemente tu respuesta inmediata va a salir correcta porque vas a contestar con el tiempo verbal correcto, ¿verdad? Ahora, si quieres agregar información adicional, como por ejemplo detalles de lo que pasó, por ejemplo, el número 2, have you ever lived in another country? ¿Has vivido en algún otro país aparte en el que estás ahorita? Esta es una oración en qué tiempo verbal. Alguien ayúdeme. What is the tense of this sentence? Have you ever lived in another country? What is the tense of this sentence?
Past perfect.
Past.
No es ni past perfect ni past.
Present perfect continue.
Es present perfect, pero no continuous. Porque el continuous lleva el ing, ¿verdad? Y aquí no hay. Pero sí es present perfect porque tiene el auxiliar have y tiene el pasado participio de live. Sí es present perfect. ¿Cómo lo supe sin nada más? Porque llevaba la palabra ever. Por lo general, cuando hay preguntas de ever, ever significa como alguna vez, ¿verdad? O en algún momento ha sucedido tal cosa. Esas preguntas se hacen casi siempre con present perfect. Entonces, son cositas que ustedes ya se van a ir dando cuenta que se repiten en el inglés. Have you ever lived in another country? Entonces, la respuesta que ustedes van a dar es con present perfect, ¿verdad? No van a contestar necesariamente con presente simple o presente continuo, sino se pueden guiar de eso para contestar inmediatamente, ¿verdad? Por ejemplo, alguien puede decir no, ¿verdad? Have you ever lived in another country? No, I haven't, but I traveled to Spain last year. O sea, no he vivido en otro país, pero sí viajé a España el año pasado. Y estoy mezclando entonces ya ahí en esa información extra el past, simple past. Okay? I'm just giving you ideas on how you can mix things, but at the same time be organized. So you're free to answer however you want or however you feel. I'm just giving you some ideas because I think that the hardest part is just knowing how to start. Like how can I start answering this question? So as simple as that. If you have a simple present question, then go ahead and start and use the simple present to answer your question. So it's just an idea. So that's how we're gonna wrap up the day. So I'm gonna start now because there are 9 of us, so I hope I have time to cover them all. I'm gonna start with Caroline. Caroline, how long have you been living in your current house?
I've been living in my current house for all my life, honestly. Even all my mom's life. It's her childhood home, and we still live here. Yeah.
Sorry, perdón, no sé si me escucharon anteriormente, yo creo que estaba hablando y no.
Estaba en mute.
Sorry. So, thank you very much, Caroline. No sé si me escuchaste, pero muy bien hecho. Let's go with Oscar. Oscar, this is your turn. Have you ever lived in another country?
I live in another country since 1999.
Okay. And
Right now I live
uh,
in Houston, Texas.
okay, and where did you live before that?
I live in Guatemala City.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. So yeah, that's exactly what we wanted to know. So, have you ever lived in another country? ¿Has vivido en otro país? Sí,
Oh, I'm
aparte
sorry.
del de ahorita, ¿verdad? So,
Okay.
of course, yes, you are living in the United States, but you have lived in Guatemala as well,
Yes,
right? That was your
correct.
first country. Okay, perfect. So I got it right. Thank you very much. I understood. Let's go back and let me go back to Daniel. So I'm asking one person from the top of the list, one person from the bottom of the list, so we can vary a little bit the order of questions. So Daniel, number 3, what kind of music are you listening to currently? So that means right now, not right now in the English class, but right now in this week or these days.
I have been listening to rock and rap recently.
Okay, perfect. That's a great answer. So he probably listens to a lot of music, but currently he's giving me an idea of the type of music that he's listening. So that's a great answer. Let's go with Miguel. Miguel, what is your favorite way of spending an evening? So what do you do?
Teacher, excuse me. What uh, is way of spending?
Spending es pasar. Spend is gastar cuando hablas de dinero, but spend is
Oh,
just pass time. So what's your favorite way of passing the time at night or in the evening? So what do you enjoy doing in the evening? It's another way of asking the same question.
okay. Mm, mm, I like to I like to send messages
Mhm.
every night. And relax in the bed.
Okay, that sounds a great way of spending the evening. I appreciate it. Wonderful. Let's go back to the top. Friseida, when did you last buy yourself a treat? When did you buy yourself a treat? When did you last buy yourself a treat? Esto lo vimos ayer, pero la palabra treat es como un regalo o algo para consentirte a ti. So when did you last buy yourself a treat? I know Friseida is having some issues with the internet, so we might be having some of those. Let me move forward just to try to avoid any additional delays. So, Karen, I'm going to ask you the same question. When did you last buy yourself a treat? Sorry, Karen, did you hear me? It's the same question for you.
Right now, yes. What is the
Sorry, what did you
question,
say?
Michael? What is the question?
Is when did you last buy yourself a treat?
Drink, mm, Let's let's see.
Sorry,
About
when?
last year.
Last year, okay. And what did you buy yourself?
But jewelry,
Perfect, like a
earrings,
necklace or
yes,
earrings or what was it?
earrings. I love earrings.
Okay, great. That sounds
Earrings
good.
in how do you say oh, like rings.
Or rings. Okay, perfect. I'm glad that you were able to do that for yourself. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Let's go with the next question. I'm gonna try again with Friseida. Friseida, let's give it a try again. What did you do for your last birthday?
¿Me puede escuchar?
Yeah, I can hear you. Te oigo un poquito lejitos, but I can hear you.
It's not my birthday yet, but last year we had dinner with my family, and then I went out with some friends.
Okay, that sounds perfect. I appreciate it. So yes, that's exactly what I was asking. So what did you do on your last birthday? And you did it well. Thank you very much. Liz, what is the nicest thing anyone has ever done for you?
I think the nicest thing is help me bad situations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. The type of answer that we were looking for. I appreciate it. So it's a very nice thing when somebody helped us in need. You're very well. You're very sorry, you did it very well. Let's see here. Luisa, we're gonna finish with you, Luisa. Who or what is the greatest love of your life?
Right now, I think that's my niece and my nephew. I think it's
Perfect.
a different love that we provide me.
Hmm.
I don't know how to explain, but yeah, this is the greatest love that I have right now.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. That's exactly what we needed. Of course, there are different levels of relationships and different things that makes us feel uh good, right? So this is a good example. I appreciate it. Great. So I think that everybody participated at least in one question. So that's what I wanted to do before we finished the class. And if you paid attention, these were very similar questions to the interview that we were reading yesterday, um, from Melissa Cortez. So let me go back to that just to give you an example. And of course, she had very different answers, right? So, how long have you been living here, or how long have you been living in your house? Have you ever lived in another country? What kind of music are you listening to currently? Um, what's your favorite way of spending an evening? When do you last buy yourself a treat? What do you do for your last birthday? More questions. What's the nicest thing anyone has ever done for you? Who or what is the greatest love of your life? And what were you doing at this time yesterday? So if you pay attention, we were actually in the middle of an interview. Of course, it was a collective interview because I was asking questions to different people. But of course, this could have been just a one-on-one interview, and I could be asking you all of these questions. But this is just to give you an idea on how common can these questions be and how common these conversations can be. Let's say that you're a great professional and someone wants to interview you because they have a podcast and they want to ask you some questions. And this is just a very quick example on how conversations can become really big. So these questions uh, can grow, and I can ask a lot more follow-up questions just based on that, right? So I was asking you, how long have you been living in your current house? And Carolyn said, I have been living here my whole life. My mom has been living here her whole life. So we can even ask further questions, right? Oh, and where did your grandparents live, right? When did they move there? And so these questions are just conversation starters or interview starters that can grow and become a lot more, I will say, complex. Now, I have a request for you guys. Some of you are very good at improvising. Some of you are very good at just listening to the question and answering. Some others need a little bit more time to think. Now, for interviews, sometimes you don't have too much time to think, right? And we are required to provide a lot of information in the middle of an interview. So what I want you to do as part of your personal study time at home is to start preparing some answers for the questions. I know that not all of the interviews look the same. I know that not every single interview is going to look like this, but at least these are going to be initial questions or initial topics that you can start exploring. Maybe you have never thought about how to explain some of these things. Algo así como me decía Luisa, ¿verdad? I don't know how to explain this. And yes, because we probably have not taken the time to explore this kind of topics in English. So this is the first time. That's why I'm bringing those topics, because probably these are things that we have never thought of answering in English. So what I'm asking you is, asking you all, is to start practicing with questions like this, questions that have more complex topics, questions that make you ask yourself, how do I say this in English? How do I put this thought together in English? Because sometimes we're very comfortable in just entering our name, giving our phone number, and providing personal information. But there are going to be some conversations that require deeper explanations. And these are the questions, these are the type of questions that normally asks us to think outside the box. So even though your next interview is not going to be just as this one, this can be a great practice. So I know that we cannot anticipate what the person is going to ask, but this is going to be great to at least be prepared on what to say and be more comfortable with improvising. Porque no siempre van a tener tiempo para poder planificar su respuesta durante 1 o 2 minutos, or we are not going to have that kind of time. So that's my request for you. So next time we have this kind of conversations, you have been doing it in front of the mirror or on your own, and you're going to become better. And again, sometimes I don't know what to say or how to practice. Well, these are great questions. These are at least 9 questions that you can practice on your own to have a conversation with yourself or with the mirror on topics that are kind of hard to answer, because these are sometimes a bit of personal questions, right? Questions about where you're living, questions about the love of your life, or things like that. So I hope that this was very informative and that you were able to, of course, feel challenged, but I will love to see better conversation the next time that we have these. And we can only have better conversations if we practice more. So I wish you the very best. I'm gonna stop the class over there. Tomorrow we're gonna continue as normal, same time. We're gonna move on with this with these kind of topics. We're gonna change topics, but at least you have an idea of what the week is going to be up. So have a great evening, have some rest tonight, and I'll see you at 7 o'clock, 7:30 tomorrow. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.